The lights shimmered across the ballroom, laughter filled the air, and music flowed like champagne. Everything looked perfect from the outside. But deep beneath that elegance, the night was about to take an unexpected turn. When Daniel walked into the party, his arm wrapped confidently around his new love, he felt untouchable. To him, this night was about showing the world that he had moved on, that life after his divorce was brighter, louder, and more exciting. His mistress, Lily, was radiant, perfectly aware of the curious eyes watching them. Together, they looked like a couple out of a magazine, until the moment the crowd suddenly went silent. Across the room, the doors opened. A soft hush followed as heads turned one by one. There she was, Daniel's ex-wife, Claire. Dressed in a stunning gown that caught the light like fire, she carried herself with quiet confidence, a grace that seemed effortless yet impossible to ignore. It wasn't just her beauty that stole the moment. It was her presence, calm yet powerful, like she had nothing to prove anymore. The whispers started instantly. No one expected her to show up, least of all Daniel. For a moment, Daniel froze. Memories he thought he had buried came rushing back. Her laugh, her silence, her heartbreak. Lily noticed the sudden tension in his hand. Claire's eyes met his across the room, and in that single glance, it was as if time stopped. The night, that was supposed to be simple, had just turned into something else, something deeper, more personal. What would happen when old emotions collide with new choices? And what secret was hidden behind Claire's calm smile as she began walking toward them? The answer would change everything. Claire hadn't planned on coming to the party. For weeks, the invitation sat unopened on her dresser, a reminder of a world she thought she had left behind. But that morning, something inside her shifted. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was closure. She wanted to face what once broke her, to look it in the eye and no longer feel small. As she stood in front of the mirror before leaving home, she barely recognized herself. Gone was the woman who cried quietly into her pillow at night. Tonight she was composed, stronger, and unshaken. Daniel, on the other hand, had been excited about the evening for days. The party was hosted by one of his business partners, i.e., chance to show off his success and the beautiful woman by his side. He didn't expect his past to walk through those doors. The sight of Claire instantly brought a strange ache in his chest, something he tried to hide behind a forced smile. Lily, though, wasn't blind. She saw how his gaze lingered too long, how his posture stiffened the moment Claire appeared. As Claire walked closer, conversations resumed, but with hushed curiosity. People whispered, comparing the two women, one representing Daniel's new beginning, the other a chapter he swore was over. But when Claire reached the group, she didn't falter. Her voice was calm, her smile faint but real as she greeted them both like nothing had ever happened. Daniel felt the room shrink around them. There was something different about her presence, something unsettling. Lily placed her hand on Daniel's arm, pretending confidence, but inside she felt uneasy. She could sense a story between them that she didn't know, one that might not be completely over. And that thought scared her. The conversation between the three of them began with polite smiles and small talk. But beneath the surface, every word carried weight. Claire asked about Daniel's new business venture, her tone warm but distant. Daniel answered carefully, trying to sound relaxed while his thoughts tangled between the past and present. Lily stood quietly beside him, her perfect smile beginning to fade as she sensed the invisible thread still connecting them. Every now and then, she caught Daniel glancing at Claire, not with love, but with something harder to define. Regret, maybe. As the evening unfolded, whispers followed them. People couldn't stop watching the quiet tension between the ex-wife and the new woman. Some admired Claire's poise, others pitied Lily. A few remembered how Daniel and Claire used to be, the power couple everyone thought would last forever. Claire moved gracefully from one guest to another, greeting old friends, sharing brief laughs, yet every step seemed to draw Daniel's eyes back to her. Lily noticed it every single time. Later in the evening, Daniel stepped away to take a call. Lily watched him go, her mind spinning. She couldn't shake the feeling that Claire's return wasn't accidental. There was something purposeful about the way she carried herself, the way she seemed to know things left unsaid. When Claire found herself standing alone for a moment, Lily walked up to her. Their exchange started politely, almost friendly. But then, Lily asked, softly but firmly, "Why did you really come tonight?" Claire looked at her, her calm expression never wavering. "Sometimes," she said, "you have to see what you've let go, to understand what you're about to lose." The words hung in the air, sharp and heavy, leaving Lily unsure who she was truly talking about. Lily stood frozen after Claire's words, her smile barely holding. The music swelled again, but all she could hear was the echo of that sentence looping in her mind. She looked over at Daniel, who had returned from his call and was now speaking to another guest, though his eyes drifted toward Claire every few seconds. Something inside Lily twisted, an uneasy mix of jealousy and fear. She had fought hard to be by Daniel's side, to prove she wasn't just a passing distraction. But tonight, she felt small, like a shadow standing in the glow of something unfinished. Claire moved toward the balcony for some air, her gown flowing softly as she stepped away from the crowd. Daniel followed, almost without realizing it. He told himself it was just to be polite, to thank her for coming, but his heart raced as he approached. Outside, the city lights shimmered below, quiet and endless. Claire didn't turn when she heard his footsteps. She already knew who it was. "You still walk the same way," she said quietly, her voice carrying both warmth and distance. Daniel stopped behind her, unsure what to say. "You didn't tell me you'd be here," he managed. Claire smiled faintly. Would it have made a difference? Their silence spoke louder than words. Daniel wanted to believe he had moved on, but seeing her again stirred memories he'd buried under pride and mistakes. "You look happy," he said, though it sounded more like a question. "I am," Claire replied softly. "But happiness isn't always about who you're with. It's about who you become after everything." Her words hit him deeper than she intended. Inside, Lily watched them from a distance through the glass doors, her chest tightening as she saw Daniel lean closer. It wasn't what he said. It was the way he looked at Claire, the way he used to look at her when he still believed in love. The world around her blurred. Jealousy turned into something colder, fear that the man she thought was hers still belonged to someone else in ways he couldn't admit. As the night deepened, the storm between the three of them grew heavier, invisible yet impossible to ignore. Claire finally turned, her eyes meeting Daniel's one last time before she whispered something he couldn't quite hear over the wind. He took a step closer, desperate to understand. But before he could speak, Lily's voice called from behind, shaking, but loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Everyone turned when Lily's trembling voice cut through the soft hum of the music. The room fell silent once again, the kind of silence that carries tension so thick it can be felt in the air. "Daniel," she said, trying to steady her tone, "shouldn't you introduce me properly to your ex-wife?" Her words were sharp but coated in false charm. Guests nearby turned to watch, sensing something was unfolding, something personal. Daniel stepped back from Claire, caught between confusion and guilt. Claire simply stood still, her expression unreadable. Lily walked closer, her heels clicking against the marble floor with quiet precision. "After all," she continued, forcing a brittle laugh, "she might want to meet the woman who replaced her." The words landed like broken glass. Daniel tried to intervene, whispering, "Lily, not here." But she didn't stop. She looked directly at Claire now, her confidence cracking under the weight of her anger. "You had your chance, Claire. You left him, remember? So why come back now?" The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for Claire's reaction. But instead of defending herself, Claire smiled, a calm, knowing smile. "Who told you I left?" she asked softly. Daniel froze. Lily blinked, caught off guard. "What are you talking about?" Claire's eyes shifted toward Daniel. "You didn't tell her the truth?" she said quietly. The crowd murmured. Daniel's face went pale. The story he had told, everyone, that Claire had walked away from their marriage, suddenly seemed less certain. Lily turned to Daniel, confusion flashing in her eyes. "You said she ended it," she whispered. Daniel's jaw tightened. "It's complicated," he muttered, avoiding both their gazes. Claire took a step forward, her voice calm but firm. "You see, I didn't leave," she said. "I was asked to," gasps rippled through the crowd. Lily stared at Daniel, disbelief washing over her face. Claire's words had cracked open something that couldn't be undone. "You wanted a new life," Claire continued, her tone steady, "and I gave it to you. But don't pretend it was my choice." The tension reached its breaking point. Daniel tried to respond, but the sound of a phone ringing interrupted him, a familiar tone from Claire's bag. She looked down at the screen and her eyes widened in shock. Whatever she saw made her go pale. Something even bigger was coming. The sound of Claire's phone echoed in the silence. She stared at the screen, her eyes narrowing as if trying to believe what she saw. Daniel noticed the sudden change in her expression. "What is it?" he asked, his voice low, uncertain. Claire slowly looked up, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's from your lawyer," she said. "He sent the wrong document." Daniel's face tightened with confusion. "What document?" he asked. Claire handed him the phone, and when he saw the message, all the color drained from his face. Lily leaned closer, desperate to understand. "What's going on?" she asked. Claire took a breath, steadying herself. "It's a property transfer," she said. "Apparently, the house you and I built together, the one you said you sold, wasn't sold at all. It was transferred into your new company's name, a week before the divorce was finalized," the crowd whispered, some pretending not to listen but unable to look away. Daniel tried to speak, but his voice faltered. "That's not what it looks like," he began. But the words sounded hollow. Claire stepped closer. "You told me we had to sell it to cover debts," she said. "You made me sign papers I didn't even read because I trusted you. And now I find out you kept it, just under a different name." Her voice broke, but she didn't cry. "You didn't just end our marriage, Daniel. You took everything that mattered." Lily turned on Daniel, her eyes wide with anger and disbelief. "Is that true?" she demanded. He didn't answer. His silence said enough. Claire looked between them both, her expression calm now, almost free. "I didn't come here to embarrass you," she said quietly. "I came because I needed to know if you were still the man I once loved, or the man you became." Daniel tried to step closer, but Lily moved away from him. The crowd had shifted, no longer looking at Claire with pity, but with admiration. She turned toward the exit, ready to leave, when Daniel finally spoke. "Claire, wait," he said, his voice shaking. She stopped but didn't turn around. "You should know," he continued. "I never sold that house because I couldn't let it go." Claire hesitated for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You already did," she said softly, and walked away into the night, leaving Daniel standing in the light of everything he'd lost. The party ended in quiet murmurs after Claire left. The music played on, but the energy in the room had vanished, replaced by an uncomfortable stillness. Daniel stood there watching the door she had just walked through, feeling a heaviness he couldn't name. For the first time in years, he realized that success, money, and appearances had never filled the space she left behind. Lily didn't say a word. She slowly placed her glass on the table and looked at him, her disappointment clear. "You didn't just lose her," she said quietly. "You lost yourself." Then she turned and walked away, leaving him standing alone among strangers. Outside, Claire stepped into the cool night air, breathing deeply as if she'd finally surfaced from years underwater. The city lights stretched endlessly before her, each one a reminder that life moves forward no matter what's left behind. Her phone buzzed again, a message from an old friend asking if she was all right. She smiled faintly and replied, "Better than ever." There was no anger left, only peace. She had faced her past and walked away stronger. Back inside, Daniel stared at the half-empty ballroom, realizing that his choices had built a house of glass, one that shattered the moment truth touched it. The crowd had already moved on, the whispers fading, leaving him with nothing but regret. For Claire, the night marked a beginning, not an ending. She drove away from the glow of the city, windows down, wind in her hair, a soft smile on her face. Life, she thought, wasn't about who you lose. It was about who you become after losing them. And somewhere between heartbreak and healing, she found herself again. The past was finally behind her, and this time it would stay there.